3, 5.
Make some noise!
No, but if you really listen to Mike Ramsey's songs, they are really good. Welcome, everybody, to Making Noise. My name is Todd Johnson. Thanks for being here today. With me, as always, is the ever so cynical about Mike Ramsey's music. What you were saying earlier? I don't know.
What's up, y'all?
It's Jay Connor.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, Jay.
Hey, Todd.
I'm really just trying to get a beef starting between you and Mike Ramsey.
Between me and Mike Ramsey?
I don't know why. I just
He's
feel
just
like
going to turn the other cheek.
well, because he is a hipster Jesus. Hipster Jesus. He turns water into PBR. Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Hope y'all are doing good. We are excited to be here. We have an awesome interview with this fantastic artist who is here. So there was an R&B group in the early mid-2000s called ATL.
ATL.
And
calling all girls.
And we had calling all girls. Hey, they were probably smoother with that because I did pew pew pew.
Yep, that was how to sell it right there, Todd.
Yeah, I don't think they would have allowed me to be in the group.
I don't think you'd have made the cut.
I would not have made the cut. You don't think I could have made the cut?
I don't think you'd have made the cut.
Well, they were really good.
Yep.
So we got to talk with Trekas Sims of that group, and it is a fantastic conversation into his life, as well as all of the roads that it took from them getting signed and going on the road and blowing up in London. Just a fantastic conversation. And it was one that we're actually going to continue later. So you're going to hear a part 2 of that come out because it was a really, really interesting story and conversation. And it was so awesome to have him here.
Absolutely.
And it was a blast. It was a blast.
Great story, great conversation. And it's just
super chill guy.
It really encapsulates like an era of music.
It does.
It totally does.
It really does. So if you ever listen to music at all in the mid-2000s,
yes,
you will get so many of them and understand and just kind of remember how the business was and how everything was. But also, too, it's just crazy to hear his story. And it was such a great story. So here's our interview with Trekas Sims.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Oh, man. Are you a big coffee guy?
Not a huge coffee guy. I enjoy coffee, but I have ebbs and flows. Like, I have a moment or a chunk of time where I'm drinking it every morning 2 or 3 times a day, and then I'll start to feel guilty about it and won't drink it for 6 months.
Start to feel guilty about it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. See, it's like a weird, I'm like, good 1 cup morning, that's it.
Yeah.
If I do anything more, I'm the most jittery, bouncing off the wall dude.
I'm kind of like that too. I have a really low tolerance to caffeine.
Yeah.
So I'm off the wall too. Like Jay knows me as being pretty reserved, and caffeine gets in me. It's over. It's over.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, it's thanks for being here, man.
No,
by the way,
yeah,
really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Jay had kind of told me, a little bit about you and stuff, and we talked about it before. It'd be great, super excited to have you on, man.
Oh no, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, and so the biggest thing, Jay kind of told me, he was like, "Hey, I need to tell you about my friend, but I don't want to tell you too much about him."
Yeah.
So
like a surprise.
Yeah, he was like, "It's got a great story, but I don't want to tell you everything."
Yeah.
So the biggest thing, where were you born? What was it? The area you kind of grew up in? And
Gastonia, North Carolina.
So Gastonia kid. Okay.
Gastonia kid, born and raised.
Okay.
Yeah, small town. Gastonia's a big place, but small town mentality for the most part.
Right.
So especially when I was growing up, everybody knew everybody. I was heavy in the church.
Okay.
So the community was everything.
Yeah.
And we all kind of grew up together, and my mom was very heavy in the church, so I had to be very heavy in the church. So, so yeah, Gastonia, born and bred.
And is that kind of where music started for you, like as singing and stuff like that? Is that kind of where that started, or is there more?
No,
it
was well, being a church kid, you had to be in the choir, no matter what. So that's kind of where it all started. The truth is, I was singing before I really knew what it was. My mom and my sister too. My sister's about 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And there are photos of my sister holding me in front of the church. I'm a baby, and I'm singing, holding the microphone, singing songs. So I didn't know what I was doing, but it was naturally always a part.
That sounds
of
like a VH1 behind the music. He was born to do this.
That's
holding
funny.
a baby, holding a microphone.
Yeah, it was weird. I think I wrote my first song at about 1.
Okay.
And it was entitled "Don't Mess with My Toot Toot."
Don't mess with my toot toot.
Yeah. Wasn't quite. I don't know what my
What's a
toot toot
toot-toot,
was.
man?
Yeah,
What's a toot-toot?
I don't know that I knew what that was, but no, I mean the truth is music has always kind of naturally been a part of really my existence.
Was piano kind of a thing as you started getting older that you would always kind of gravitate towards and still play? Like, do you feel comfortable sitting behind it and playing and jamming, or is it more just kind of a way to block song ideas out?
Yeah, I'm a chordist. More than I'm a pianist, right? So,
right.
Yeah, plucking out chords and doing that kind of stuff. I mean, like when I was young, I was the choir director for my church and things like that. And as I got older, I ventured out and played a lot more in different settings. And
right.
I actually have a funny story about that. So, my mother, she worked for Mecklenburg County Department of Social Services, Child Welfare Department.
Okay.
So when I guess it started when I was like 14 maybe. And they would do these fashion shows. And one particular year, my mom asked me to sing and play. And I don't remember what it was that I sang, but as I was singing, there was a couple there that didn't know that I wasn't up for adoption. And they were convinced that they had found their son. Right?
Your mom's like, no.
It was a weird thing. Like, they really tried to go forward with the process, and they ended up meeting my mom, and she was like, well, he's not up for adoption, but
unfortunately that's my son.
Yeah, right. I don't know if she's
well, I don't know. I mean, you were a teenager. She might have been like, you know what, he really's been pissing me off lately.
Yeah, right. No, especially when I was a teenager. But no, I mean that just is an example that as I got older, I started to do a bit more out in front of people. But again, I'm nowhere near as good as I should have been. That's something I should have really honed in on.
But it garnered attention. It wasn't just
absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
people took notice.
Yeah, and I think part of it for me is, music is a passion of mine, and I think for the most part, it's like kids who have natural inclinations for anything. Whether you can be someone that can draw or be an artist. You just pick up a pen or a pencil one day and start drawing, right? I don't know that you actually, I don't think you measure what it actually means or what you're actually doing. It's just something that you do. And that's kind of how it always was for me. And yeah, but as I got older, it did for sure started to garner some attention. Like,
you're starting to get that little bit of attention when you started getting the attention where you're like, oh, this is cool, where you're like, I can't stand this. What was that feeling of performing?
I'm not an attention guy.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, that's probably one of the most
How do you do
aspects.
that? How do you do that? I'm asking for somebody. Asking for a friend.
I don't know.
Todd's asking for a friend because he definitely isn't an attention whore.
That's funny.
Not at all. Is Todd Johnson an attention whore?
That's funny. I don't know. At the risk of sounding cocky, because my mother was so heavy in the church, I was always in front.
Right.
And it was never my choice to be in front.
Right.
And so I kind of grew up with attention.
Right.
So I never developed a desire for it. Really, it makes me very uncomfortable. It makes me very uncomfortable.
So then when did you make the pivot and decide,
like, outside of church,
I want to be in a band?
The band thing kind of came along in a really interesting way. So when I was in junior high school, we would have recess. Not recess. It was like break time or something. And there were some guys there that were like, hey, we should sing. So we would start singing during break. And then 9th grade year, the first day of school,
This is still in Gastonia?
This is still in Gastonia.
Okay.
First day of school, 9th grade, there were 2 guys that I knew from school, but we never really talked to each other. We weren't friends or anything at that point. And they were twins, as a matter of fact. And they rode their bikes to my house. And they were like, hey, we heard you can sing. You want to be in a singing group? And I was like, sure, I got to ask my mom. And,
right.
And it kind of went from there. Like, it was never really my dream. It was never really, that wasn't what I cared about.
You weren't searching it out. You weren't.
No.
Was there something at that age that you were like that you really wanted to do that you were kind of set forward, or were you just being a kid, just kind of going through life?
Yeah, it was kind of strange for me. I don't think I identified the thing, which is why I'm grateful that it happened the way it did.
Yeah.
Because it kind of ushered me into something that ultimately I really, really enjoyed doing. Even when that first group that I was in, once we started to perform, I fell in love with that aspect.
Okay.
And it wasn't even about attention. It was expressive. It was, I could get on a stage and I could do what I wanted to do. In a lot of ways, I could be myself.
Right.
Like
right.
I kind of grew up in this space where I had to put on for people. Right.
Right. And that's vastly different.
Correct. It's vastly different.
Yeah.
And, there was my mother always wanted me to sing gospel music. So you find yourself kind of competing with that. That wasn't what I wanted to do anyway, right? I was doing it because she made me do it.
Right.
And I enjoyed it, but it was never my passion. And once I got on the stage for the first time,
now you're doing it because you want to.
Now it changes.
Right.
Now it changes.
So that first group, what was that called?
we were initially called On Point.
Okay. And that's not bad for an early band.
Yeah,
name.
no, pretty good for some high school kids.
Yeah.
We were On Point, and then we changed. We got a fourth member and changed our names to Overflow.
Overflow.
Yeah.
That's also not that bad.
It wasn't terrible. No, it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse.
I think we were did a talent show as formerly known as.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, that's great.
That's
yeah,
pretty funny.
Yeah, we didn't sell. Yeah, what are we gonna do? Anyway, but yeah, no, so that's pretty good. So would you guys get gigs? Was it kind of just more kind of around high school? Like what did that?
No, we actually really from the start, because they were already doing it.
So these guys were already doing it.
Yeah.
And then okay. So that kind of works out too, because there's already like the foundation of like how does this band stuff work?
Absolutely.
They're like, oh, we got you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is, like, I was just having a good time. Having a good time. So yeah, we started to travel. I think the very first show we ever did was in like South Carolina at some festival or something like that. So we were already getting gigs in places.
Nice.
Yeah.
Would you guys do like the tracks or?
Yeah, we were doing everything. At that time, it's a lot different now than it was back then. Back then, you had to make a demo. Everybody needed a demo.
Yeah.
So we were always working on demos and always writing and taking those songs and performing and trying to shop those to labels and all of that stuff.
Gotcha. So you guys were doing the full. We're an original singing group. We're doing this way. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many years with that were you with that kind of group? Were you kind of going around doing that just kind of all through high school or?
So it was actually a very quick transition. So I guess that started 9th grade.
Okay.
By 11th grade, I was traveling to Atlanta by myself to kind of pursue a record deal. And even the way that happened, like,
were you getting a label attention at that time, or
not just yet? So the way it happened, the group that I was in, we eventually got to Atlanta, and we did a showcase at a club. I can't remember what the club was called, but we did a showcase, and we just happened to meet somebody.
Yeah, it was a label showcase, or
we just happened to meet somebody that was really well connected and took an interest to us. And then so from that point on, every weekend we were traveling to Atlanta, and we were just consistently working on demos.
Around what year would this have been?
Maybe 2000, maybe 99, 2000.
So it's like Atlanta's not fully what Atlanta is.
No, but
so that Outcast money's just starting.
But there's something that's happening downtown that people can't explain if you're from New York or LA.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was this pocket of people.
There's this culture that's exploding.
Absolutely.
That's just not nationwide.
Absolutely.
Yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a lot of working in people's, in people's apartments and things like that. But I mean, we also found ourselves in some studios. And it's funny, things go full circle, but a lot of the places that we worked when I was doing that, once things progressed and got bigger, I was in those same places again.
Right.
But everybody kind of grew up together at that point. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So you guys started doing demos and shopping it out and stuff, and did, as far as any attention, like how long did that process take? Were you guys getting meetings or talking to any labels or anything? Or
we were able to do one showcase in New York as a group.
And this is the same group?
This is the same group.
Okay.
We did a showcase in New York, and that was kind of my first time. Like, I remember being there and like Missy Elliott walked by.
Right.
It was just it was my first time experiencing anything like that. That was the only thing we did collectively on that level.
Okay.
And, honestly, for me personally, it started to become a bit of a strain.
Right.
Because the dynamic changed a lot. So when we first started the group, I was just happy to be there. Right.
Yeah.
Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. I'll go over here and do the moonwalk, or I'll go over here, whatever it was. Right. And the twins, they were kind of the face of the group, and it made sense. Once we started to go to Atlanta and really work with professional people, all of a sudden they identified me as the guy that should be in front.
Right.
And that caused some tension, just being quite honest with you.
Right.
And it got to a point where, and before I even go there, it taught me a lesson about, at that point, the music business.
Yes.
As I've gotten older, business in general, right?
Yes.
Right.
At the end of the day, it was about, we're trying to make some money, right?
Yes.
And because we're trying to make some money, we've identified that this person is probably best suited to get us to that point where we want to make money.
Right.
But then at that point, we're 14, 15 years old.
You have zero context about this.
We don't understand that.
Right.
And so from the other members of the group, from their perspective, I completely get it. You go from one day being the star of this thing to the next day. And it was bad. Like they would have the guys record parts and then come get me and have me record everybody's parts over.
Right.
And it was one of those. It just needed to be done. We didn't understand that, so it caused tension.
Right.
And it got to a point for me to where I was done. I didn't want to do it anymore.
Well, it's tough too when you're that guy too. That pressure's put on. Like being a teenager in any sort of
it's tough.
area with that.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like, how could you ever make the right or wrong decisions in a way?
Right. You don't even have a barometer for that. And I think that and to their credit, I know now they didn't have an issue with me.
Right.
I was just, they couldn't say anything to anybody else.
Right.
So I kind of had to bear the brunt of that.
You were the only person they could vent to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it got to the point to where it kind of took the fun out of it.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
For me, I'm just having a good time. I had no expectations.
Right.
I wasn't trying to be a superstar at that point. So if you want me to go sing the song, I'll sing the song.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But now, so that path kind of starts going. There's that little bit of strain.
Mm-hmm.
You guys do that last showcase, or do that showcase in New York. Does it just kind of go after a point where you're just like, screw this, man. I'm just gonna make some demo of my own. I'm gonna just shot myself out.
That wasn't even it either. Like,
really?
Still, that wasn't my mindset. So literally what happened is I got home and I told my mom I didn't want to do it anymore. And she said, well, that's your choice. But if you're not going to do it, you're going to do it the right way. So she made me type a letter of resignation. She made me sign it. I called my manager at the time. I gave it to him. In that letter of resignation, in that letter, I put a date. And I said, if we haven't, progressed to a certain point by this date, then I'm done. Mm. Just so happened on that date, we were in Atlanta. Mm. And the guy that we were working with, he brought us to a studio. And he said, he sat us down. And immediately you could tell the energy was off. And he said, listen, I'm going to take you all kind of one by one to the back, have a discussion. And, we got some decisions to make. I was the last person to go, so as I'm watching everybody come back, everybody's got this long face. I really didn't care. It was my last day.
Right.
So as I go back, he says to me, so listen, this is what I've decided. This isn't going to work the way it's currently constructed. He said, the only choice that we have is either you go solo or you drop one of the members of the group. And at that time, again, I had no desire to go be a star.
Right.
And so what I replied was, if it's not the four of us, it won't be any of us. Right. Mm-hmm. So we left. And that was that. But he did, before we walked out, he gave me his number and he said, well, if you change your mind, give me a call. All right. I'd love to work with you. And that was kind of it. And I went on about my life. At that point, it was like, all right, I really wanted to go to Carolina.
Yeah,
my sister went to Carolina. A cousin of mine went to Carolina. I'm a Tar Heel fan.
Right.
So at that point, it was really, all right, I'm going to focus on this. At that time, TRL was a big deal, right? Total Request Live on MTV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was a daily thing. And every day it was like, who's going to be number one today? The Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, that type of thing.
And then every single video in the middle of it, we're going to interrupt it
Yeah.
So that way we can get 4 17-year-old girls to go, hi, my name is Haley, and I'm excited to be here from Rhode Island. We're all here. Woo!
Absolutely. That's it.
Which is essentially social media now.
That's
Right,
exactly.
That's exactly
That's
what
exactly what it is.
I just don't understand why they had to yell after every single, like they couldn't just be like, I'm Haley from Rhode Island and I like Britney Spears. Like, that's cool. But after every time they had to like yell for 15 more seconds.
Yeah.
And you're like, just play the video.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you're right. There were 2 things that happened. NSYNC had a Christmas concert, and I was watching it, and I wanted to be on the stage.
Yeah.
It felt like I was supposed to be doing that.
You stood your ground a couple months earlier.
Yeah.
You did good. You did your thing. And then you say, I'm going to quit for a little while. And you see it and you're like, yeah, I miss it.
Yeah, I miss it.
Yep. It pulls you back.
Yeah. And then there was a conversation that I had, because it was still the twins and we're still friends to this day. But there was a conversation we had, and one of them said, hey, we should have kicked that guy out. And it made me feel like if it would have been me, then they probably would have kicked me out. Right?
Right.
And so at that point, all bets were off. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, man, I would go to school Monday through Friday. As soon as school was over Friday, I would go get on a Greyhound bus, go to Atlanta, and work until late Sunday night till the last bus comes back. I would get back to Gastonia probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, get a couple hours of sleep, and go to school.
Okay, so right there, what's the goal?
At this point, I want to be a star.
You want to be,
I want to be a star.
It's sinking in.
Yeah.
You're missing it.
And your mom and your parent was fine with that.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't think anything was weird about it, that I was a 15-year-old kid getting on a Greyhound bus by herself,
right,
and going overnight.
Right.
And as I got older, and this is a credit to my mother, as I got older, I asked her, because I have nieces and nephews that age now, and I can't imagine.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And she was like, every time you got on that bus, I prayed that you'd be all right.
Yeah.
She said, but if I wouldn't have let you do it, at some point you were going to come to me and say, Mom, if only you would let me try.
It's interesting. I somewhat
got emotional.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. I mean, it's big.
100%.
It's big.
Yeah.
You know.
So that kind of started the journey, really, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Like that's when I figured out that if you want to do this, it takes a lot of hard work. So it was studio all the time. It was rehearsals and dance all the time. It was.
Were you working with
training.
the same manager? Did you call him up?
Same guy.
And say,
same guy.
You called him up and said, "Hey, man,
I'm ready.
Let's do this."
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
And yeah. So
do you happen to be cool with sharing the name or any of that? Or
yeah, it was a guy named Anthony Tate.
Okay.
He was the guy. He was the guy, and his name is attached to a lot of stuff now. But at that point in time, he really didn't have any artists that were known.
He was just kind of hustling and looking for good talent.
Yeah, he was looking for good talent. I mean, he had a label job. I think he worked for Sony for a little bit and some stuff like that. But he was just hustling for talent. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And this was before Atlanta was.
This was when it was starting.
Right. This was before you were driving into the north part of Atlanta, the fried chicken place, and there were 5 Ferraris sitting out front.
It was much different at that point.
Yeah.
But there was a small independent label called Noontime.
Okay.
And Noontime's claim to fame was really like writers and producers. So that they had a really good stable of people who were doing a lot of work. And at that time, like, I don't know, like Bad Boy was huge, and they had records over there, and they had records on quite a few people. And I was working out of that studio.
Oh, cool.
And that went for a little bit. And eventually we started to do some showcases. And I think over the course of 2 or 3 months, man, I was in New York every weekend doing a showcase or taking a meeting with a label. And we just happened to end up at Sony.
Wow. This guy is lining you up great if every weekend.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this guy,
he was hustling.
Yeah, this guy's
absolutely.
hustling. I mean, like now, like, you know, it's one of those things probably when you're a kid, you're like, cool, this guy's doing, but like, there's a lot of, you know, not good people who are like, I can help you out, kid. And they have no idea what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Listen, my journey was, it really was unheard of.
Yeah.
The way.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, it really was like a lot of the pitfalls that we talk about certainly coming up, I didn't have to deal with that at all.
Right.
At all. The stuff that I dealt with was after the fact. But we ended up. Go ahead.
Do that showcase with Sony. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you were
no.
doing a showcase for Sony in New York.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was interesting because once we started to do those showcases, it started to really feel like I could get this done.
Right.
And I hit it off with Sony, and we had a really good conversation. And so then we entered into negotiations.
Great.
As a solo artist. As a solo artist.
Okay.
For whatever reason, we couldn't see eye to eye, and it was like, well, listen, we can take this deal, or we can keep grinding and get something better somewhere. Whatever.
So when you're saying not seeing eye to eye in that situation, is it like what is it? Was it money? Was it kind of a creative vision? Because there's so many other more people involved.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, honestly, it was length of contract, it was money, it was kind of all of that stuff. And he was smart enough, and he had been around long enough that it wasn't going to be a bad deal. Like, I wasn't going to sign a bad record deal.
Right.
And we'd all heard the TLC stories and all of that stuff. But the truth of the matter is, at that point in time, that was pretty standard. That was the standard deal.
Well, that's what's funny. It's like, he's not going to get you a bad deal, but there's never anything as a good deal. No one's ever like, I got a great record deal.
Right. You're not going to get a good deal.
It's never going to happen.
Right. It's never going to happen. But at that point in time, it was, it just felt like it wasn't the right deal.
Wasn't the right fit.
Yeah, wasn't the right deal. And so it was, hey, we can regroup.
Yeah, keep shopping.
So that's what we did. We kind of regrouped.
That's good.
So it just so happened at the same time, Sony had an idea to put together a group.
Okay.
And the group's name was ATL. So they had the name of the group already, and they were going to hold like this American Idol style competition in Atlanta to find the members of the group.
Okay.
I didn't know this was going on, right? I was just, trying to make other things happen.
Right.
And so it happened to be on my birthday. I come back to North Carolina for my birthday.
What year? How old?
This was 2002. So I was 18.
Okay, so for your 18th birthday. Right.
So when I went back to Atlanta, he was like, hey, man, I want you to take this meeting. He was like, it's this group. Sony's putting a group together, this, that, and the third. And I was like, well, I thought we weren't going to do the Sony thing. And he was like, I owe some people some favors. He was like, so I'm just going to take you to go meet them and see what you think. Mm. So by the time it got to me, they had already had the competition. They had already decided who was going to be in the group. They just remembered me.
Right.
And so, okay, I'll go meet them, whatever. And when I went to meet them, man, they sold me a bill of goods. And it just didn't, it seemed like I shouldn't pass it up. And it took me a while to make the decision. But ultimately, it came down to, all right, if I go out here as a solo artist and I bomb, it's over. If I go do this group thing,
right,
at least I still have a chance to do a solo thing.
Right,
regardless.
Exactly.
So,
did you meet the other guys at this moment, or are you just meeting Sony?
Yeah, I'm just meeting Sony. I'm just meeting Sony and the team of people that they had. That
and they're they're probably going to bend over backwards a little more than they were that first time because they really like this ATL idea.
I think what happened is that one, the way they got me was the list of people that we were going to work with, right? And it was people that I admired. It was, at that time, like, one of the bigger producers was Rodney Jerkins, and he had just done a Michael Jackson album, and I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. And
right.
His name was thrown around. There was a lot of people. Jermaine Dupri was making a huge name, had made a huge name at one point, and he was supposed to be attached to it. So it was like, there's no way I can't do this.
Well,
there's another big name attached to that first album too.
R. Kelly. So that came a little later.
Yeah,
that came a little later. So I said, hey, what the heck? And then on the backside of it, it was conversation that was like, hey, you will have the opportunity to do some solo things. So I took it.
Definitely seemed like a better.
It felt like a better.
So for your 18th birthday, you signed with Sony.
Well, the process started.
The process started.
I think the deal was signed in December that year.
Gotcha.
And no, I hadn't met the guys yet, so they put a day together for us to all meet, and it was weird because this was before reality shows were a big thing.
Right.
So they were actually going to shop a ATL reality show. So when we get there, there's cameras everywhere, and they kind of filmed every moment and this kind of stuff. So it was really exciting. It was really exciting, and that kind of started the whole thing. And so we immediately go and we sign it. We immediately go and start recording. I think the first day we met, we recorded a song.
Wow.
And
was that still kind of a demo thing, or was it like it's serious? We're going into a studio.
It was a serious going into the studio.
Okay.
Thing.
Do you remember the studio?
It was called Hindu.
Okay.
It was called Hindu. As a matter of fact, I kind of taught the studio that I actually met Sony is. I don't know if you're familiar with who Dallas Austin is.
Not off the top of my head.
So Dallas Austin, he did a lot of the early TLC stuff.
Okay.
He did like when Michael Jackson put out that History album.
Yeah.
He was a executive producer of that.
Oh, okay.
And like he made a big name for himself. And when I met Sony, we met in that studio.
Cool.
Yeah. So we move forward. We record a song the first day we meet. It was fun and interesting and all of the above. And by January, it was full throttle. It was,
wow.
We got to put a project together. We need to find singles. We need to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So we worked probably up until March or April.
Oh, wow.
And
this was like an everyday thing.
This was an everyday thing.
Were you still in high school?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
No, not at this point. So my senior year was over in 2002. So this was a year later.
Okay.
So we start the recording process, and in March or April, the VP of Sony at that time was a guy named Dave McPherson, and he like helped find the Backstreet Boys and so on and so. He was kind of heavy in that Orlando pop music boy band scene, and he came to us and he was like, "Listen, we got to get a single. We don't think the songs that we've been recording are singles." And he was managing R. Kelly at the time, and he said, "So I got R. Kelly to do your single," and he played it, and that was it. We went and recorded it.
Wow.
Which song was that?
It was called "Calling All Girls."
That was a Calling All Girls. That's what I thought. Yeah.
So before that, like, was it just the one guy coming in producing and writing the songs? Were you guys writing songs, or
no? I mean,
like what was that process? Was it like, here's the words, here's what we're doing?
Yeah, that was it. At that point, when they were manufacturing something,
right? Absolutely.
And we got a team. We know what we're doing.
Right.
We're gonna make the music.
Right.
And so no, we didn't have any creative control.
Gotcha.
Which I didn't care. I mean, hey, I signed a record deal.
Yeah. Signed to Sony.
You show up, you sing into a mic. Hey man, here's what we need you to do.
Look, 2 years before that, I was singing in front of a buffet at Pizza Hut.
Right. Exactly.
And old ladies throwing pepperonis at us to get us out of the way. So yeah, I signed a record deal, and I was just excited to be there. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So with R. Kelly, was that just kind of like the demo just kind of came in? Like, did you guys meet him or anything, or
no?
That
not
time
at that
in the
point.
studio? Okay.
No, not at that point. He sent the song.
So he sent the song.
He sent the song. He played it for us. I didn't like the song, but it was an R. Kelly song.
And the label said you need to do it.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer, and that was at a point in time where every song on the radio was an R. Kelly song.
Right.
Every song was an R. Kelly song.
Well, that's what the label's going to do.
Yeah.
This has been selling.
Yep.
We have the guy who's been selling it.
Correct.
Let's give it to the next artist coming up.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And so we did it. The downside to that was, and don't get me wrong, we charted on Billboard and all that stuff. We had video. We shot the video. We did all of that stuff.
Sweet.
But it was also on the downside of that period of time where every song on the radio was R. Kelly.
Right.
But with that being said, all of a sudden, we're on promo tours. We're doing all of this stuff. We're traveling. We shot the video. The song is on the radio, which was the coolest thing in the world.
You guys are on MTV.
You have the whole nine, right?
Yeah.
So, and it happened really, really fast. We were probably, I can remember, so the first show we ever did as a group was in Alabama.
Okay.
And so at that time, there was this other boy band.
Not Georgia.
Not
Georgia,
Atlanta. Not Atlanta.
The name of the band is ATL.
There's a story in that, too.
Okay.
And there was another group at the time called B2K, right? And they were kind of like the kings of the R&B boy band scene. And then here we come. And the very first time we ever performed on the stage, they happened to be there, too.
Okay.
And we weren't supposed to perform. But there's no way we're not going to take this opportunity to
if
show
you're
that,
there and they say, we'll get you on the stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time we performed. And from that point, it kind of took off, and we did a morning show tour. There was a morning show by this guy, Russ Parr, nationally syndicated morning show, and he would do these tours, and we did the tour. And I can't remember who we were on the tour with, but I distinctly remember in the beginning of the tour, nobody knew who we were.
Right.
And we were opening, and halfway through the tour, we were headlining.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And it was overnight. It really was.
Yeah.
So
you guys started charting and stuff. Yeah.
we started charting, and the video started. There was a presence with the video, and then at that time, I don't even know if they still have these teeny bopper magazines, but like the Tiger Beat and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're all in those magazines.
Yeah.
And, like it was. I remember the first time.
Dude, do you have any of your Tiger Beat like clip outs? You got some Tiger Beat clip outs?
Well, my mom has.
Your mom. That's cool, man.
She has a scrapbook of all that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she does. It's pretty cool to look at.
I really want to see this scrapbook.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how weird is it to be in a Tiger Beat or something like that where you're kind of like in that thing, because it's like it's such an like as like a teeny bopper kind of thing. It's like I'm in a magazine and you look at it, it's got to be kind of like a weird. Because then it's like relationship advice of like, this is how you get a boyfriend. Like as you flip through the pages, you know what I mean?
And your zodiac sign. And all that weird stuff. So it's got
to be, I mean, it's really cool. I'm not making fun of it. I think it's
but
probably like a surreal kind of experience.
Yeah. I mean, like keep in mind too, like I didn't care about that.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what's got to be weird about it.
When it got weird though, like they would ship us the magazines and stuff before when it got weird I would be in Walmart. And I'd be standing beside somebody looking at me in a magazine.
Right.
Like that got strange.
Yeah.
That got strange. And again, going back to I didn't really like attention.
Yeah.
That actually had a negative effect on me.
Yeah.
Right. And I would come back to town and go somewhere with my mom, and my mom would be like, "You know who he is? Do you know who he is?"
Oh,
Mom,
then that's
stop.
Mom.
Stop.
Oh, yeah.
Like, come on,
like,
come on, Mom.
Don't do it.
It's like, yes, she's proud, but it's also like, let's not do.
Yeah, like
this.
I'm all right. I'm all right. Because what happens is
I've already performed in this Pizza Hut and got kicked out.
Like I'm all right. I just want to meet
eat,
lovers
Mom.
and
do some garlic knots.
Yeah, that's it. Just give me that. And what's even weirder is you would get these points where like I would be in a mall and somebody would see me from the top deck and they would start singing.
Yeah.
Right. And it was literally people challenging me because they know who I am and they have something to prove.
Big shot on TV.
Right.
Big shot on TV.
Correct.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I didn't carry that energy. That wasn't.
No.
For the most part, I just kind of wanted to get in and get out, and I didn't really want to deal with that stuff. And so
I think that's indicative of the style of music too, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because like you wouldn't necessarily have that. I mean, if you were fronting a rock band, nobody would walk up to you and be like, "All right, man, we're going to do this." And also too, it like comes down to I mean, to me, talking about the origins of where you came from with music, with gospel, right?
Yeah,
you have a lot of that kind of playoff kind of thing with like gospel musicians.
Yeah, I mean, you would just find what you would learn is that people have something to prove.
Yes.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. And even at that moment, even in those moments, my response would be, I remember one time I got fed up and I went to the guy and I was like, "Do you know who I am?" And he was like, "Yeah, I know who you are." And my response was, "I have no clue who you are."
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't
think about you.
There's no reason for me to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, I appreciate it. But
I think it's definitely still there in like we say that in rock, but it's always in like a more backhanded way. That is something that I always do like about certain other, like almost any other style of music is if that competitive thing, if someone does have something to prove, you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
that this guy is being like this. Somebody has a chip on their shoulder about something.
For sure.
You know it right away.
And how awful zen of you to like completely and totally just eliminate the ego there. You know what I mean? I mean, and you didn't even realize that's what it was.
No,
in that
not
point
at
in your
all.
life.
Not
but
at
like
all.
now, like me being a an older guy who's like read a lot of that kind of stuff and thinking about that part there, it's super just a complete elimination of the ego, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I was really only doing it for one reason. Like when I talked about, doing the showcase for Sony, there was a point where Dave McPherson asked a question. He said, obviously this isn't a competition, but you're trying to be number one. And I said, for sure. And he said, so who's the guy that you're trying to take out? And I said, Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody fell out laughing. To me, it wasn't a joke. It was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to be the best.
Right.
That
absolutely.
was my mentality.
I'm not fighting for sixth place.
No, I don't.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I'm not even fighting for number one today.
Right.
Like,
but at some point,
I'm trying to go down in the history books.
Right, yeah.
And so
if you're going to do it, do it.
If you're going to do it, right? And so even at that point, my focus was just this side of it, right? Like whatever notoriety came with it, whatever, I always tell people I was never famous. I was just more popular than most people. But whatever,
that's good.
Whatever came on that side of it, I could have, I could take it or leave it. I really didn't care.
Right.
And then there are times where it literally becomes dangerous, right? So
how so?
So as we're getting more and more traction, we're in Cleveland, right? And we have an appearance at a mall. It was like Easter. So the plan was ATL comes out and we're going to do this scavenger hunt thing and whatever. And at this point, Lil Bow Wow was like the man, right? Yeah. So we were just setting everybody up for him. He comes out, they go crazy, we sneak out the back door and we're fine.
Right.
Well, we decided to shop. And we go shopping and get some stuff. And as we're walking back to leave, the first thing I noticed is that it was eerily quiet. And it's like, at that point, Lil Bow Wow was a superstar. And they were going crazy for him. Immediately, I realized he had left. So now I'm concerned. So we're walking, and a girl sees us, and she walks over to me. It's like her and her brother. And her brother's like, hey, my sister loves you. Would you take a picture with her? And these were the days of the disposable cameras. Right. And I was like, fine, yeah. So we're standing in front of like the display of a store, glass display of a store. And we take the picture. Flash goes off. And you have that moment where you kind of have to readjust your vision from the flash. So I readjust, and I'm able to focus, and it was like 2,000 or 3,000 girls just running straight for me.
Oh, because they see the flash. Because someone's taking pictures. Right.
So they pin me up against the glass thing, and and I'm slipping, and in my mind I'm thinking I just cannot hit the ground. If I hit the ground, it's over. Right. And at that time, one of the other guys from the group came over and grabbed my hand, and we took off running. Right. So we get to the door, and the problem is the door opens inside. It's not a push out. Right. So we're pinned between the door and all of these girls. And while this is happening, they're pulling our hair, they're ripping our clothes. Right. It's like we're getting bruised and battered and all of this stuff. And we finally get out. And we take off running. Right. And funny moment. So one of the guys was ahead of me, and he had the bright idea to turn around and look, which wasn't the best idea. Right. I've never seen somebody bounce like that. But so we run. It was like a movie, man. Like a limo comes and swerves, and we jump in the limo, and he throws it in reverse, and he's backing up, and we're looking out of the window, and it's like all of the girls are chasing the limo. And we finally get back to our van, and we get in the van, and everybody's adrenaline is going. And when we calmed down, it was like, man, that was terrifying.
Yeah, right.
Now, was this before Make It Up With Love?
Yeah, this was before Make It Up With Love.
Okay. So this wasn't even the peak for y'all.
This wasn't the peak. No, this wasn't the peak.
So this is just, still just starting.
Yeah, people are just at the point where they're recognizing us.
Okay. So that album drops, you said around April that year.
So the album didn't drop, the single dropped.
The single dropped,
yeah,
okay.
The single dropped in
So
April.
the album's still not out.
No.
Single's out. You guys are touring, getting chased by people in malls. What's the next thing that you guys release?
There was a large gap of time between the release of the first single and the second single.
Okay.
Like the first single came out in 2003. The second single didn't come out to 2004. Because we didn't have it, quite frankly.
Right.
We didn't have it. Part of it was that they just jumped the gun. It was just too fast.
They had this idea and they wanted to run with it.
And they wanted to go with it. Now we're doing promo tours and all of this stuff is happening. And then we get a call. And the call is the label. And they say, hey, do the guys have passports? And no, we didn't have passports. And they said, well, we need to get them ASAP. We got to go to London. Well, what's going on in London? It's huge over there. How? We didn't release anything over there. A DJ got a hold of the song and started playing it. And
oh, wow. Perfect.
And it's huge. I don't know what huge is, right? All I know is right now we're doing this. It seems pretty cool, right? And so we fly to London. And we get there, we fly into the airport, and it was fine, right? We get to the hotel, and we have a radio interview to go do. And we jump in the car, and we're going to the interview, and out of nowhere was just people.
Right.
And I didn't even put two and two together. Because granted, we could pull a crowd in the States, but this was different. This was wrapped around buildings and blocks of people. And we pull up to the station, and they were there for us.
Wow.
And it was a completely different experience at that point. Like, at that point, it was like, okay, maybe I might be a little famous now.
Right. That's kind of, a little weird. Yeah.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Come on.
And all of a sudden, the level of things that we were doing it was completely different.
Right.
And now we're really on TRL. I think the first time we did TRL overseas, the show was Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, and ATL. That was the show, right? So it was a big deal over there.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. So that kind of kept us going for quite some time.
When you guys first get there, like, was the management or anything planned for that? Like, was there like extra security? Or
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew. So it's like you guys get there and you're like, we need to like rethink everything.
Yeah, we had no clue.
How long were you guys in like London? Would you guys keep going back? Would you guys stay in London for a bit? Or
I mean, I think the longest stretch we did about 26 days straight in London.
Okay.
But we were there probably at least once a month.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty big over there. But then inevitably what happened is, as steam picked up over there, because we didn't have a second single, things started to die down in the States. And then we record Make It Up With Love. And the first version of the song was horrible. It was awful. It was so bad that I really don't like the song now to this day. But it's because of
the
my
version.
It's a little long.
It's a very long song.
Yeah,
it's a very long song.
It's long.
It's a very long song. But my first impression of that song was, this is awful. Mm-hmm. And but we record the song and we put it out, and then over here it took right back off. And Make It Up With Love ended up being the peak of it was the biggest song that we had. And at that point,
did you have a chance to say in that creative decision? Because so like, even then, did you, like, if you were to say, hey man, this song kind of sucks, they would have been like, or whatever you would feel like, if you didn't like it, or, it's just my opinion, I don't like it, I maybe do, someone would have been like, shut up. Like would that have been kind of how that would have happened?
For the most part. I mean, to the label's credit, we didn't like the first version of the song, so there was a rewrite.
Okay.
So that was cool. And
so that is cool. So there was a little bit, but they were like, we're still going to take it and rewrite. Okay.
Yeah, they rewrote the song, and that was the song we went with.
Okay.
And at that point, everything's kind of started back over for us, right? And so Make It Up With Love was when we started to really, really tour. Like, at this point, we go on tour with R. Kelly. So now we meet R. Kelly.
Wow.
Right? And so
this was the first time you met R. Kelly.
First time.
Is when you opened for him, not when he wrote the song.
And this is 2004.
This is 2004. Yeah, 2004.
Okay. So you guys are on tour with R. Kelly around that time.
Yeah, we're on tour with R. Kelly, and it was interesting.
I was about to say, any weirdness of things in that time, given what we know now, or like looking back, or
the only thing I remember is on stage he was great. He was amazing, and obviously he has that catalog of music. Like it was a masterclass.
Yeah,
I mean, you watch any like clips of R. Kelly live, man. It's amazing.
It's a masterclass.
Yeah, absolutely.
The dude was killing it.
So we it's funny. So I talked about that B2K group. Right?
Yeah.
They were way bigger than we were, but we still had a bit of a rivalry. It was like you couldn't be a fan of both of us. Right? And so some people kind of connected to them happened to be at the show. Mm-hmm. And I remember this. They got kicked out of the backstage area. And they were like really salty about it.
Right.
And so we, being jerks and kids, as they're getting kicked off, R. Kelly has told his security to come get us to bring us backstage. So we're just like waving at them while they're leaving. Like, just being jerks, right?
Yeah.
Just being kids. This is when it got strange. I remember we like went down this, it was like a lot of steps, and we went down this really dark hallway, and it was like we were in the rafters almost. It was weird, man. And a door opens, no light coming out of the room, a door opens and a tray slides with like drinks and stuff just in the middle of the floor. Just comes out of the room in the middle of the floor, and the door slams. Boom. Weirdest thing. And we stand there and we're like drinking Sprites and Coca-Colas, and R. Kelly walks out. And the first thing that shocked me was how big he was. R. Kelly's like 6'3", like
yeah, he's a tall dude.
He's a big guy.
Yeah,
he was on the phone though, and I remember him being on the phone and he was talking to somebody, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was very illegible. It was like I couldn't figure that out from what, as a fan, what I know of him. It's like, I've seen you, and you're not putting these sentences together.
He's a very succinct speaker where
you're very articulate.
Right.
He's a very articulate dude.
Right.
And he's on the phone just mumbling.
But I also understand turning it on and turning it off. I also understand being one way in front of the camera and being yourself behind the camera. And then obviously later it comes out that he's like, has a learning disability and is dyslexic and can't read and all of that other stuff. And you could really tell, but that was the only time we ever met him. And the funny thing about it is, and this kind of goes back to, I guess, the way the world works, especially in the entertainment thing. Obviously, we're still in that, Me Too movement and all of that stuff. But even back then, everybody knew what R. Kelly was doing.
Really?
Yeah. There was a tape.
Exactly. This
was before the first trial. And everybody knew what he was doing, but he was making hits and people were making money, so it was okay.
Wow.
That's the Chappelle skit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the Chappelle skit.
Yeah.
And he's holding the ID and he's got the tapes playing in the background. Yeah. That's not him.
Yeah, that was the whole. So it was looking back on it. It was pretty.
And that was the culture. I was about to say I don't know how Chappelle would feel about that now, but also too like dating comedy and going back like of what would be is probably not.
It's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's
much different. Yeah,
it's different for sure.
You ever watch the Boondocks?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a really great episode of the Boondocks about R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Where the Riley, right, is waiting. To he's trying to get in the trial, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah, it was. Yeah, everybody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Back then. So that was the one experience we had with R. Kelly, but yeah. I mean, we put that second single out. Now we're everywhere. Like we're everywhere at this point.
Right.
So it was pretty cool.
So it's just okay. So it's massive. It keeps going, and like, so are there talks as far as like the record coming out with that single, or is it?
Yeah. So they kind of got put in a position.
Yeah. No. And how far did it go?
So
how big did it get?
Everything was moving so fast overseas that they had to put the album out.
Okay.
Right.
The album flew off the shelves, but they wouldn't restock the album.
Okay.
So,
was it like a distributor problem, or
it was a choice? So
choice from Sony.
Okay. So now the way at that point, I don't know how it is now, but at that point, Sony in the U.S. and Sony in the U.K. they acted independently of each other, but the money came from Sony in the U.S.
Yep.
And I mean, we had the label in the UK lobbying for us. Like, you don't understand what's going on out here. Right. But it wasn't like nobody was coming from over in the US to come. And then, and this is the part I missed. The guy who signed us, Dave McPherson, had gotten fired.
Right.
And so,
which is usually, this is the unfortunate turn of what usually happens to people.
Right. We kept getting put in these positions where we had to keep proving ourselves over and over and over again.
To people who come up after you.
Correct. So Dave McPherson gets fired. A new VP comes in.
Yep.
We got to prove ourselves to him.
Yep.
We were on Epic, Sony Epic. So there was Sony Epic and Sony Columbia.
Oh, wow.
Sony Epic.
How was that as a Jackson fan?
Well, I was on the same label as
I know. That's awesome, man.
It was kind of like, it was surreal.
Yeah.
Like, I remember walking into the label and literally on the same wall, it's Michael Jackson here and then like me over here.
That's crazy.
It was the craziest thing ever.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, I mean, it was cool. So then Epic and Columbia merge. Everyone that we kind of fought to win back over from Epic at that point, they get fired. They bring the Columbia staff over to run things. So now we got to win that. And then, I mean, we would even have issues, even with Make It Up With Love, when it got sent for ads. So if you're not familiar with how ads work, every Tuesday, every label has a group of songs that they send.
Yeah.
Radio stations decide if they want to add the record or not.
Well, it used to, now there's New Music Friday or whatever, but it used to always be records would come out Tuesdays. Strings were coming out, and I think it's only been that way for the past
very recent,
yeah, just a couple years that everybody's kind of changed that model. Yeah. But Tuesday was the day you went to the
Tuesday was ad day.
That's where you went to the CD store.
Yeah. But now we're competing with Beyonce's got a single coming out that day. They're not going to pick our single over Beyonce. So it became
and you don't have the label fighting for you anymore.
And we don't have the label fighting for us that way.
Well, and that's the problem that happens with some of these things sometimes too. Is like, you know, it's always been a problem that's happened since like around the 70s. Once it started, the label system really started developing.
Yeah.
In a modern way.
Absolutely.
Of every label that's that size gets a new VP, gets a new guy every 2 or 3 months. And to prove his worth.
Oh, yeah.
He has to say, I have the hot new thing.
Absolutely.
That's how he got the job.
Absolutely.
And what's crazy is no one has any fucking clue.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. Yeah. And I think that, I think that's anywhere. If the new GM of the team comes in, he fires the coach, right? I gotta
shake it up.
Right, I gotta shake it up.
Everybody's got to shake up the label and do this stuff. Yeah. Correct. And what really should just happen is really just follow the kids. Follow kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are the kids which is kind of, it's the good side of kind of social media today.
Yeah.
You can see real-time tracking.
Absolutely.
Of something that maybe, that's where something goes viral that isn't signed.
Yeah.
But the downside is there's no money in it for the labels to develop an act like yours. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because that took a lot of good development, and you guys were very talented.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's not. If you had the talent level that you had, you couldn't go, well, we need a single. Let's call R. Kelly.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's the weird catch-22.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of what we kind of give.
Yeah, but the truth is, I think that so it was music. Certainly on the urban side of music, there was a weird shift where it was no longer about the artist and it became about the producer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's where we kind of got caught in.
That's true.
Well, MTV helped out a lot too, though.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, people putting themselves in the song.
Correct, right.
Yeah.
It wasn't so
Puff
much.
Daddy in the video.
Well, yeah, or the biggest one I think about is Timbaland.
I was about to say
Timbaland
in that era. Timbaland in that era.
Pharrell was the same way.
Yeah. Well, Neptunes first.
Neptunes.
And then that bleeds over into Pharrell.
Now when you get caught in that thing, it became more difficult anyway.
Yeah.
To really break through.
It almost seems like the label sat on you guys a little too long.
Sure.
Do you think that if because here's the deal, if that second single could have come out a couple months later, not a year later.
Absolutely.
And you could have put the album out. That gives you now time to make an album.
Right.
In a new era of
we would have
of finding a celebrity producer.
I think that we would have
and attaching.
We would have at least
thing.
gotten a second look, but
yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I don't think they had a plan anyway.
No.
Right? They didn't have a plan.
No.
There was I don't know exactly what they were trying to accomplish, but there wasn't a plan anyway. And I think that because even then, I don't know if you're familiar with Sierra.
Somewhat.
Sierra. So me and Sierra kind of grew up in the same camp. So the Anthony Tate guy, Sierra was one of his artists. And when we started doing the ATL thing, she just kind of showed up and was a part of what we were doing. Like she was on our album and all of this stuff. And she gets signed to Jive, who, to be fair, they were the biggest pop label at the time.
Right.
She gets signed to Jive. Her first single is produced by Lil Jon, and at that point, Lil Jon was everywhere.
Yeah,
he was the king of it.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Oh man, you can't. Yeah, couldn't escape him.
But that was their plan, right? It was Lil Jon is the first single. We're gonna attach Missy Elliott, put her name on it. We're gonna build traction that we have to do, and she goes platinum.
Right.
With us, that wasn't the case. With us, it was like, well, we don't know what to do, but R. Kelly. As a matter of fact, Dave McPherson, if I'm not mistaken, was managing R. Kelly at the time. So that was like. It was. I don't necessarily know that it was 100% because R. Kelly was every record was an R. Kelly record.
Right.
That was a relationship, right? And,
absolutely.
And
it was an easy phone call to make.
Beyond that, if there's a conflict of interest, if Dave McPherson is managing R. Kelly and R. Kelly is charging $500,000, then Dave McPherson gets paid from
right. That's the other. That's the other part of it.
So I don't know that that's exactly what happened, but
that may not have been the thought process, but it sure as hell didn't hurt when he made that phone call.
Correct. And
sure as hell didn't hurt when he get that paycheck.
It didn't hurt.
Right.
It didn't hurt. And I think R. Kelly ended up doing like 3 or 4 songs, and one of them was a remix to "Calling All Girls," and there was 2 others that never seen the light of day. But the business happens, and
right.
And even with the overseas thing, so now that we're huge overseas, we're on TRL, like we're doing. There's a festival called the Prince's Trust in the UK every year, where we get a letter from the Prince of Wales inviting us to come perform at this festival. And at that point, it was only 3. It was a 2-day festival. The only people to perform both days were us, Beyonce, and Jay-Z. Like, it was that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And like, I remember when we were.
Did you get a chance to meet them at all?
I walked when we did TRL with Jay-Z. We walked past them. I don't think we met him.
Right.
And the Beyonce thing was weird. Like, first of all, I was in love with Beyonce at that point in time.
Of course you were.
Who wasn't and who still isn't?
And so she and I have the same birthday.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
So you couldn't convince me that it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
So like, dude, every time
we should have went up and said that to her immediately.
I tried though. We would be in the same place, but every time I would get close enough to her, she would be gone already. Or like, I remember we went to the label for a media day, and like her sister was getting married, so one of our reps was dog sitting for her, and I got to pet her dog. It was like weird stuff like that. But
excuse me, Queen, we have the same birthday.
Right. Oh man. Listen, I was definitely shooting my shot.
But Sony Epic has everything to do with you guys making a record at all here in the States.
Correct.
So even though UK could be fighting for it,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So
when did you start? We've kind of already talked about it a little bit, but like when was it? When was the moment when you started seeing like, oh, there's a decline here? Because we're going up. Our second single's out. That it's going good. We're blowing up in London. Mm-hmm. When do you start kind of looked at? Is there a moment that you kind of looked at yourself or talking to a friend and going like, this is something's going downhill? What was the thing?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was much later where I actually recognized what was happening, because
Gotcha.
even though things, we were still trying to find another single over here, and
yeah, I guess you're still working.
Yeah, we're still
so
working.
Close to it. You don't maybe see it until retrospect.
Right. You didn't really see it. But I do remember the fateful phone call that we got that kind of changed everything. We were in London. We had just left the radio station, and we get a call from the new head of A&R, Eric Nix.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, listen, we have good news and we got bad news. What do you want first? What's the good news? Good news is you have the #1 selling single in the country, right? So literally in America.
Wow.
So literally there's a billboard somewhere in 2004 where
#1
ATL has the #1 selling single
Wow.
in the country. I think it was like us #1 and Beyonce was #2.
Wow.
So what could the bad news possibly be?
Right.
And the bad news was, well, there's $3.5 million missing from your budget, and we don't know where it went.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Well, what does that mean? We don't have any money.
Yeah.
Well, how does that much money just go missing? I don't know.
So, if I could make an assumption,
perhaps
we're in management and accounting.
Yeah. Right.
Where did this end up going?
Right. Where did it go? Because we clearly didn't spend it.
Was there also somebody who magically disappeared on your team, or was very hard to get in contact with at that time? Do you know?
No, I mean,
what happened?
The truth is, there was a lot of speculation.
Right.
We don't know for sure what happened.
Okay.
We have no clue. But I think that, that was clearly when it was over.
Right.
Looking back, there was no way to recover from that.
And the label said there was no way. The label was like, I mean, you're so far beyond your advance. We're not gonna look at another deal?
To their credit, the option that they gave us was, well, we have no money, so we can come back and try to figure out how to repackage everything for cheap.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you just couldn't do it for cheap.
No.
You still can't do it for cheap.
Right. You still
you can't do it right for cheap.
Yeah,
right.
That's
you can't
right.
do it right
right.
for cheap.
True,
right.
very
I mean,
true.
now there's, you get a puncher's chance now.
Yeah.
Because of the ease of access and all of that stuff.
Yeah. This technology is so much cheaper than
sure.
But to do it good and to do it right and have the right team and people.
You can't do it. And and at that point we kind of talked about those super producers. I mean, they were charging, Timbaland was getting $1 million a song. Like that, there's no way we can get that, right? So now we gotta, our album was kind of this amalgam of,
and also being number one, you can't do your second album, or you can't try to find a third single or anything. You can't do it with an unknown. You have to now attach.
Yeah, you have to,
because that's what the culture was thriving on.
Right,
then.
and it wasn't possible.
And it's funny how quickly that producing money changed, right? Because if you think, one of the things that sticks out to me is Liquid Swords, the album Liquid Swords, and the GZA charges people 5 G's a session.
Yeah.
That's literally a lyric in there about him producing stuff. And who was bigger than Wu-Tang then?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's bragging about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. There was a huge shift.
Yeah.
And it really negatively impacted at least music on the urban side, because now what they did is, instead of investing in artists, they would just have these writers be artists.
Right.
Man, it sounds just like Nashville almost.
Yeah, and
right. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've said this all the time. When people talk about those markets, they are fucking identical.
Yeah.
With the way the business works, and the person who always loses is the artist.
At 100%. 100%.
Always loses is the artist.
100%.
Because in that scenario too, okay, $3.5 million is gone. Now, granted, you're not an accountant. You're not supposed to be.
Right.
You're singing this thing.
Right.
But at the same time too, you're not choosing the hotels you're staying in. You're not getting a say in this. You're not getting a say in the promo tours.
Correct.
So they're saying, sorry guys, you lost all this money.
Yeah.
You lost all that money?
Yeah, right.
Where?
Exactly.
Doing what? For people
Right.
that hire the studios we went into?
Yeah.
That you told us we had to go into?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the one thing that we were smart about is, when you go, you have reps in cities, and every time you go somewhere with the rep, they want to take you out to eat and do all of that stuff. We were really quick to be like, no, don't swipe that card.
Yeah.
well, that's the thing you don't realize. Is
we're paying for this.
That
no,
advance,
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right. We don't
right,
have to
exactly.
Yeah, no. So it was
that rep charges it right back to you.
Absolutely. Yep. And so it just, at that point, maybe going back to your previous question, that was the point when I knew it was over.
Right.
I think that you're hopeful, and I know we still have steam in the UK, and I think if we had I hate to say a better team, but truthfully, if we had a better team, then perhaps we would have been able to leverage what we had there,
right,
and kind of extended something. The truth is, we could have signed to a label over there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that was going to kind of be my next question. Yeah. So did they completely drop you guys? What was your end agreement with Epic?
So we got a call we had an ally in the building, and she gave us a call, and she said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We're having these meetings about plans and all of that stuff, and they didn't mention ATL one time.
No.
And at that point, we decided to leave. Now,
and you guys did you guys have an option to leave, or was it?
They were gracious enough to let us out, and I think that
because that is massive. Some people will be like, "Oh, you're shelved.
Yeah,
you can't do anything.
You're
stuck with us because you didn't do that second album,
right?
But we're not going to pay for it,
right? The funny thing is, we kind of got caught in the emergence of the social media thing, right? And so when we were coming down, like MySpace was
blowing up.
MySpace was blowing up. And the truth of the matter is, it probably would have been beneficial for us to be shelved, because at that point, all we needed to do was continue to work. All we needed was to record songs.
Yeah.
Because we had a fan base. If we had been smart enough to look at it, and it's not even smart enough. Nobody knew.
Well, hindsight's always 2020.
Correct,
like you said, re-signing with somebody in the UK or something. Yeah. Hindsight's always 2020.
Absolutely.
So but I just wonder at that moment, what was your thought? Was your goal like, man, we're done? I'm completely done. or are you like I want to find something else, or are you just like this experience
to us
is
we
done
could
for me?
retool and we could go get another deal. That's the way we were thinking.
Okay, so that's okay.
And so because we still had some, I mean, we were still going back to London doing shows even during this time. So we came
number one single. I mean, there's no reason to stop.
Yeah, I mean, there was no reason. So we get back, and this was maybe the beginning of 2005.
Okay.
And I think we did one more performance. We went on tour overseas. And I think we did, I mean, we did like the UK, but we went to Germany and Switzerland and, Norway. We went to quite a few places and did a tour. And when we came back, it was pretty much over, and we left Sony. During that time, though, we knew someone that was, I can't remember the position he held, but he was at Warner Brothers.
Okay.
And so we were in negotiations at that point with the Warner Brothers.
Oh, good.
I mean, there was a write-up in, another write-up in Billboard about Warner Brothers' new acquisition, ATL.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then he got fired.
Yeah.
He got fired.
Yeah.
And so that was over. And then from 2000, so the entirety of 2006, we didn't do anything. I mean, we started recording again, and we got some songs done. And then we got a call to come back to the UK for New Year's. There were 2 shows that we were going to do on New Year's. This was 2006 going into 2007. We go over, we got new songs, we start rehearsing, and it was really I knew there was no way we were gonna, like, this was the last time we were going over there as a group.
It wasn't holding up as much.
No, and the mentality of the group changed, right? One of the issues that we had was, and I think this happens when you have a group of people and you're trying to get everybody to move in the same direction. It's really hard.
It's very hard.
And everybody has their own idea of what success is. Everybody has their own idea of what they want to accomplish.
Especially after 2 years of some hard label hits.
Yeah, and in my mind, I thought, listen, guys, let's just all get this thing, focus on this, let's get it as big as we can get it. And then we can all have leverage to go do whatever we want to do.
Right.
But that wasn't how everybody was thinking. So, like,
Right.
we had one guy in the group that was like going to Florida, and we don't know why he's going to Florida, and we find out he's going to audition for a reality show. Or
people are starting to make the next steps.
People are starting to make next steps. And I don't even blame them for that. The truth is, looking back at it, I wish I would have had that mindset, to be real with you. But I didn't. For me, I was going to go down with this ship. But when we started to get things together for this last hurrah, I knew it wasn't going to work. So we start rehearsing, and we took a break for Thanksgiving. And literally coming out of that, my message to the guys was like, hey, listen, we make sure we're rehearsing every night, because when we come back, we're not going to have a lot of time. We need to be able to hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. We come back from break, I'm the only person that rehearsed.
Of course.
So now we got to start over.
From scratch.
Yep.
And we got 2 weeks to get there.
Yeah.
And so now we go overseas with a routine that isn't ironed out, because we've only been doing it for 2 weeks.
Right.
And the first show we did was absolutely horrible.
Right.
It was the worst show ever. To the point to where when we finished that show and we had to do the second one, I was like, no routine. Just grab these microphones and sing these songs. And I knew it was over. I mean, the whole experience was really, really bad. And we got back, and the plan at that point was, so really we had 2 primary singers. It was myself and the other guy, Lawrence. And the plan was we were just going to kick this one guy out of the group.
Yeah.
And we were just going to go try to figure out how to do it together, because we were the singers. And we had a meeting. It was over the phone. And Lawrence was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And we actually had some sessions lined up that next week. And he was done. And so the ATL was officially over.
Well, so as far as the solo stuff and kind of what you're doing now, man, it kind of sinks. I really want to keep talking to you about this a little more. We're hitting a little low on time.
I feel like this is a 2-parter.
Yeah,
this is our first 2-parter, because I know that from here we got the Vegas years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really want to talk to you about that, because,
and I feel like we should.
Yeah, but I mean I think we could probably work something out some other time if you'd ever want to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll work something out down the line. Yeah,
more than happy.
Like now, I mean, having performance be so much, I mean, of China and stuff, like, is there stuff now that you kind of feel like you'd want to do more as far as ever performing with it? Or
how do you feel about being a revolver?
Yeah, sure. Shit, that's not where I was going, but hell yeah. I was just curious.
You want to come sing some songs?
Hey, I'll grab a microphone.
Hey, man, whatever you want, man. You tell us what.
We'll give you the opportunity to do some Tom Petty.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you were like,
any day of the week.
Yeah.
Any day of the week.
Oh, man. Yeah, man. Dude, seriously, thank you for doing this, man. It's been great. Yeah.
I had fun. I appreciate you guys inviting me over.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
It's a fascinating story. And I think that it's something that you don't, I mean, obviously, you don't hear this very often.
All right, that was our talk with Trachus. Thank you so much for being here, man. That was so fun. Jay,
awesome.
Dude, I mean, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, great story. Loved it.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit more. It was kind of crazy with this one. Jay personally told me, don't know anything about this person. Don't know anything. Don't look anything up.
Just go into it blind.
Just go into it blind. So, and I'm glad I did. But that's not all of it. We're gonna have him back on as a guest a little bit later, so we can talk about his solo career that you heard us kind of allude to. So, which he's done tons of stuff with that as well. So, make sure to check that out. So, thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate you. Make sure to keep up to date with all the fun stuff that we're doing. Go ahead and subscribe and like and all that stuff.
Hit that like button.
Hit it. And we will see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.